Sizing up Murphy, drives, floats, hangs, and scores on the turnaround. J-Dub way behind the three-point line and hits way behind the three-point line. Got blocked. What a rejection by Holmgren. Standing tall like a wall.
This is Dart. You're listening to the Uncontested.
What is up, Thunder fans, and welcome to the Uncontested Podcast, our weekly group podcast, and a little bit of a post-game pod as the Thunder just destroyed the Wizards tonight. I am your host for tonight, Taylor Peterson. I'm joined by one fella, the tall man himself, Justin Peabody.
Hello, everybody.
We got a lot to break down tonight. Excited to dive into it all. Like I said, Thunder destroyed the Wizards. We'll get into some of the big takeaways from that game. We'll talk about the week of Thunder basketball as a whole. It was a lot of fun, even including that Cleveland Cavaliers loss. We have some Prairie Trivia, as always. We have our weekly predictions. And then if time allows, Justin, we're getting closer and closer to trade season, which is exciting. So maybe we'll talk about some potential opportunities for the Thunder in that regard. Before we get any further, we are a proud part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network and proudly brought to you all by Prairie Artisan Ales. It's been really cool. Also, well, I guess I'll go ahead and plug. Yeah. So we have Justin drinking a Prairie Ales beer.
Little Blue Buns tonight.
Blue Buns. What is Blue Buns, Justin? Tell the people.
It tastes like a blueberry muffin, but it is specifically defined as a sour ale with blueberry, cinnamon, vanilla, and pecans.
Love it.
Or
Prairie's
pecans.
so good at that. If they give you a description and it's always spot on. Blueberry muffins, pumpkin pie, one of your favorites.
It's a good one.
The buzzer beater, which is the lemon lime Gatorade flavor, all kinds of good stuff. Also, a lot of you in our Discord, shout out the Patreon, by the way, up there in the top left corner of your screen. You can scan the fancy QR code there. Join our Patreon. You get access to our Discord. There's been a lot of people in the Discord talking about going to Prairie and watching games live there, especially during this away stretch. Also going there before games. So really appreciate all of that. Also, we had our live watch party, our monthly watch party we had Friday night for the Knicks game. That was a ton of fun.
Had a blast.
Be sure to join the Patreon. Yeah, Justin and I were both in there. Silva made an appearance. Nicholas made an appearance. A lot of fun stuff.
Good stuff.
So, Justin, usually on our group podcast, it takes us about 10 minutes to start talking about Thunder basketball. And that's because Jacob, Niffin, and Silva, JD, they're very good at taking us down those rabbit holes. But we are a Thunder basketball podcast here. We talk about basketball outside of even just the Thunder on occasion.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like we're due for an update on how the Little League down in Frisco is going. How's your Coach of the Year candidacy looking? How's your son Jack's MVP candidacy looking?
Well, thankfully not a huge update. They took a little break for the holidays, and then Saturday's game got canceled because of snow. So there's no new results to report. We'll be back at it next Saturday. Should be a good one. We had a practice, put them through some new drills, got some good scrimmages. The kids are begging for knockout, so I'll probably be getting a knockout game in soon, but it's been good. Got to preach some 0-0 mentality to those guys using all my Dagnaldisms. But yeah, we'll be back at it tomorrow night, practice.
I love it. Hey, back in my day, we used to hike up the hill barefoot in the snow both ways to get to our games. Now we're just canceling them in the ice. Unbelievable.
Yep. The worst was the first practice we had. We practiced at a middle school gym, and he's in third grade, and it's their first year on 10-foot goals, and the team that was before us was on 8-foot goals, and there was the way it's set up, like the half court. There's 3 goals. And do you know how long it takes to raise 3 goals, 2 feet with the little like spinny pole thing.
That's
Dude,
what I was going to ask. Is it like the pole?
The guy
thing?
at the gym goes, he was showing me how to use it, and he was like, just get ready. He goes, best shoulder workout you're ever going to have. And I got about halfway through one, and I was like, this guy was not lying.
You're sweating. Shoulder.
So thankfully by practice 2, we discovered that there was another team that also needed 8-foot goals. So we did a little swapperoo, and I don't have to do that anymore. Though maybe my shoulders are taking a hit because of it. I don't know, but I'm not upset.
I can't wait until it's like spring, early summer. We're seeing pictures of you just with these jack delts.
Just massive delts. Yes.
Don't
hold your breath.
Yeah. Takes me back to my YMCA days, or like when my little brother was playing at the local Y in Owasso.
Yeah.
They didn't have that at that point. They might now. I don't know. They just had like those little like goals that you basically hook on to the
Oh, yeah.
goal.
Yes.
Awesome.
I forgot about those. Those are awesome.
A lot easier than trying to crank a whatever and lift.
Amazing. Yeah.
Lift baskets.
I don't recommend it, especially not 3 of them.
Yeah. That is fair. Well, good stuff. Justin, unlike your Little League team.
Yes.
The Thunder played, or this week, the Thunder played quite a bit of basketball.
That they did.
Oh, hey, look who we have here about to join us. Live from Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, Jacob Niffen getting set up.
What?
That should be pretty fun. Still has his Caruso jersey. A little disappointed.
He's getting plugged in. We'll give him a minute.
A little disappointed he didn't get a Spider-Man pointing meme picture with Caruso.
Yeah, we'll have to get an update on that. But game-wise, Taylor, you can go ahead and call the Thunder Balrog the way they were killing Wizards. Just an absolute decimation tonight in Washington. As clean of a win as you can expect. A little competitive early, like wasn't it? The Wizards were up like 22-21, something like that. And then after that, just game over. Like that, it was never close. It was as boring of a win as you could hope for. Not an exciting win to necessarily like break down or talk about, but an easy cruise to victory. Even more so than the Knicks on Friday night. This Thunder team has responded to that close loss in Cleveland by just absolutely decimating 2 teams in a row.
Justin, I feel like we've jumped on the podcast over the past couple of weeks and talked about consecutive games that felt very similar. Like, for example, that Knicks game and then the Celtics game last week at Paycom that were incredibly competitive in the first half, and then the Thunder able to either come back or pull away. A lot of similarities with those games. Felt more similarities to tonight's game, kind of like the Knicks, like you said, obviously very different in terms of competitiveness and the caliber of players on the opposing team. Shout out to the Wizards. But like you said, it's like kind of competitive to start, a little bit of a slow start for the Thunder tonight. And then I think you said they got up like 21-20 at that point. Thunder finished a quarter on a 13-6 run and just don't look back. It was complete domination. And so once Jacob jumps on with us, he was there. He can kind of talk about the atmosphere a little bit. But I think I tweeted out at one point, like, the Thunder are starting out pretty slow. Kind of looks like they're just kind of going through the motions, kind of lackadaisical. And you can't really blame them.
Yeah.
Because that atmosphere was like, I'm not even kidding. Like, we've been to summer.
It was sleepy.
And like some of those games are great when you have Wembanyama or even like Bronny James when we were there last summer. But then you're like sitting there in the middle of the afternoon watching like the Wizards and Rockets go at it or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just dead in that gym. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
And DC
and to be honest, it's not like, oh, they came out going through the motions and then they turned it on and dominated. Kind of felt like they were going through the motions all night and they still won by 40. Like that, It was just that kind of game. They were able to sleepwalk to a 40-point win, which is kind of incredible.
It just shows you how impressive this team, how competitive they really are, and just their style of play.
To that point, like Shai didn't have a good night. He put in numbers, but like, what did he shoot? 5 of 17 from the floor.
Yep.
He got a lot of his points. Not a good night for the foul merchant narrative. I think I saw a stat that said this was the most free throws he'd attempted in a game this season at 17.
That's kind of crazy.
It is crazy. Like
crazy.
Tonight's game is what NBA Twitter would have you believe happens every night for Shai, where he goes 5 of 17 from the floor and 16 of 17 from the free throw line. This was not a normal Shai game. Not a great Shai game in general, but again, you didn't need it. You definitely did not need it when you win by 41 points.
Well, you nailed it, because one of the big takeaways, my first big takeaway, is that the Thunder only shot 47% from the floor and 37% from three and still won by 40 points. That'll do. Insane. Yeah, that will do. And before we get any further, really quick, I mentioned the atmosphere in DC. Shout out to all the Thunder fans who made the trip. Our guy Jacob, he was sending us pictures and videos, and then it was just apparent from the very beginning. You could see and hear on the broadcast the MVP chants for Shai at the beginning, the OKC chants throughout the game. The Thunder faithful traveled well. Shout out to our guy Smoot, who actually was there, and Jacob got to meet up with him. Smoot's
nice.
In the chat.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Pretty cool that so many Thunder fans were there and representing and supporting this team.
And now look at this. We're joined live by Alex Caruso.
Hey, can you guys hear me all right?
Hey, Jacob.
Special guest pod.
Live from DC.
Is my audio
on the
ground?
Okay?
Yeah, you sound good.
Beautiful. Yep. Live in DC. Just got back to the hotel not too long ago from the game.
It's awesome.
Yeah. 2 down.
How was it?
Yeah, we were talking about the atmosphere. I mean, you guys had a great OKC section there, it looked like.
Atmosphere tonight, absolute garbage. Really, really, really bad.
Kind of what you might expect.
I would say close to 50-50 on Wizards fans versus Thunder fans. The whole lower bowl behind the Thunder bench and just like behind the benches in general were primarily all Thunder fans.
That's awesome.
And yeah, the MVP chants were loud. I thought the OKC chant at the very end of the game was very loud. The broadcast was probably off by this point, but when the team like ran off the court, the cheers were very, very loud. It was night and day difference from Friday night, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
and I had posted in the Discord tonight that even though Justin, you had mentioned that first quarter was kind of like the Thunder just didn't play well and they were down like 23, 22 or something like that. But two things were very, very evident being close at that game and like sitting close to the court. Number one, there's one thing Jordan Poole's interested in, and it's shooting the basketball. That brother, I mean, he's the dude everybody hates in pickup.
Yeah. He's the Nick.
He's Dion Waiters reincarnated.
Yeah, that too.
No, Dion had.
He's the Nick.
In comparison to Jordan Poole, Dion is like a 14th century monk. He's got all the restraint in the world. Like Jordan Poole is insane. Shooting pull-up threes from 40 feet out with 21 seconds on the shot clock is just absurd behavior that should get you benched, but whatever. But that was thing number one. Thing number two was the score didn't reflect it early, but it was the talent gap between the two was just absolute absurdity.
Yep.
The Thunder were just insanely better than the Wizards. And obviously I made the joke tonight. The Wizards have 6 wins and I spent $7 American on a Coke Zero in their arena. There's something wrong with that. I shouldn't have to pay more money than wins that they have.
Inflation.
That's
also a bucket of popcorn was $22.
Oh my gosh, that's
stupid. I'm gonna go ahead and guess it wasn't bottomless like the one at Paycom.
Say it again.
I'm gonna guess it wasn't bottomless like the one at Paycom.
Oh no, just one bucket of popcorn, $22.
That's nuts.
Something tells me
you can't get people in the door anyway. Win more than 6 games,
right?
You can charge $1 per game won.
There you go.
My philosophy.
Something tells
Jacob's
me
economic vision.
Those tickets that you bought though tonight, Jacob, were just a little more cheaper than the ones you had.
Than the Knicks.
Just a little more cheaper.
Just a little more.
Yeah. So I can give a quick update from MSG as well if you guys want before I get out of here. I know
let's.
Taylor did the MSG pod. Night and day difference. Absolute night and day difference. The arena, Wizards arena kind of stinks. Like not like smells bad. It's just not a good arena.
Yeah.
I was not impressed at all. Madison Square Garden was insane.
Did it live up to the hype? That's what I've always wondered.
Yes. I thought it was really cool. Whenever you walk in, it's not as big as you think it would be.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're expecting to walk into like this coliseum, this cathedral that just like takes your breath away.
There's a
It's
joke I
not
could have
quite-
made there, but I restrained myself.
Thank you. It's not quite like that. But the inside the arena is really cool. The concourse level, it's interesting because like you walk in at ground level, you go through security. There's the team shop, there's all that stuff. And then you go upstairs and scan your ticket to get in. And there's like escalators that take you to the different levels. So the concourse area is really cool. The seats are great. Like the quality of the chairs, like everything is really cool.
No, Jacob went mute.
We lost him. The cord.
So close. This is what you get. This is what you get with live on the ground.
Boots on the
updates.
ground. You're still muted, but I think you're good. There it is.
There it is.
Okay. But just the quality of the arena, the cleanliness of the arena. The Knicks have this very top upper section in the arena where they're assigned seats, but they're bar seats, and you sit up on a bar stool at a bar, and it's kind of like Cloud City in OKC, and you kind of look out over the arena, and they're not bad seats at all. But that whole area is that's all there is up there is these bar seats, and then a ton of bars and restaurants and stuff up at the very top. It's really cool. The Knicks atmosphere was way, way, way better than DC. The Knicks atmosphere was incredible. They booed their own team a ton.
You could hear that loud and clear too.
Which if I was a Knicks fan and I paid that much money for tickets to that game, I would also probably boo.
That's a good point.
Because those tickets were crazy expensive. So I would probably have also have booed. But the setting was really cool. I'm glad I got to see a game in MSG. Nice. I'm glad I got to see the Thunder absolutely smoke a team in MSG.
That too.
Dude, that game, I've never seen somebody hit threes like that.
Seriously.
That was insane.
Isaiah Joe was just absurdly good that night. But it was really cool. The whole scene, like outside MSG, getting a little away from basketball. New York City. Justin's been to New York City.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Taylor, have you been?
Never been in New York City.
Okay. Justin,
I've
what are
never
your
been on the
feelings?
East Coast.
What are your feelings of NYC, Justin?
In general?
Yeah.
It is not my favorite city. I see why people like it. I have many others that I prefer. There's definitely there's something for everybody in New York. Its size, I think, is its greatest virtue.
It's too much for me.
It's too much. It's too much.
I'm glad I experienced it. Probably won't go back. No offense
I think
to anybody
I agree.
in NYC. It's just not my vibe.
Yep.
I love Chicago. Chicago is much more my vibe.
I feel like the city
of a
is
big
collapsing
city.
on top of me.
Yeah. I'll never
people
forgive New York
everywhere.
City for one time when I had a hotel room that was near one of the garbage facilities, and it was trash day. And about every 45 minutes, literally all night long, I just heard trash trucks clanging around. And to me, that's kind of the epitome of the NYC experience, is just so much noise all the time, which can be fun in doses.
Yep. It's there's just a lot.
Yeah.
But the NBA store was cool.
I bet that
Nice.
was awesome.
They have some good Thunder gear in there. Did we have some
Absolutely not.
representation? No.
No.
Bummer.
You know,
Maybe next year.
the
Maybe next year.
number one team in the league, the West leading Oklahoma City Thunder with the MVP front runner on the team.
Yeah, maybe.
But the front window's got a Larry Markkinen jersey. So
Oh, sure.
Because that
Why
makes
not?
a lot of sense.
Yeah.
He's having a great year with the Utah Jazz. Hey,
I'll tell you one thing. There's a lot of Chicago gear, a lot of
Yeah.
Lakers gear,
Yeah.
a lot of Knicks gear,
Makes sense.
a lot of Golden State gear.
Mm-hmm.
Boston. All your
No
big
Thunder
markets.
stuff.
Yeah.
No Thunder stuff.
Hey, baby steps. We're just now getting back on the national
Takes a
TV
minute.
games. Next year,
Next year.
we'll do a group trip.
Well,
Maybe.
Taylor, I wouldn't crush your fingers. You wouldn't crush your fingers.
We'll stick to Vegas. Silva's not
Vegas.
Sounders. So
But yeah, so cool 2-game experience.
Nice. And you're only halfway there, right?
one more game.
One more.
one more game. Yeah,
One more
2/3 of the way there.
2/3 of the way.
But told there would be no math, right?
Yes. Fractions. Who needs them?
Yeah, so I'll be in Philly in 2 nights. I'll get some content, post it for you guys, but
Love it.
I have heard to just be prepared for Philadelphia. Multiple people who would know have told me, if you thought the Knicks booing in the Garden were bad,
I
wait
believe
till
it,
you
man.
get to the Wells Fargo Center.
I believe it.
If you get
Hopefully
out
we give
there-
them reasons to boo.
I want to see Jacob like scrapping up in the stands, like getting after some people. Maybe he has like a black eye
Yeah.
when he comes on the podcast next week.
Okay,
Yeah.
before we let you go, Jacob,
Mm-hmm.
the people want to know, did we get
Yes.
any interaction with Caruso? Did we get eye contact, a head nod, anything?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Not even an acknowledgement.
Nope.
Did you wear the headband?
I do not have a headband. Although,
You
did
could
you
have got
see
one at the NBA shop.
Did you see Caruso's fit tonight?
No.
He was dripped out.
He looked like, I said he looked like a 14th century monk. It was like the all black like shirt, like, and he had the little rope tied around.
Yeah. I think
like
you should have
his-
worn that.
And I said he looked like a monk. And I don't know if I can call him friend of the podcast because he's never been on the podcast. Maybe we should make that change. But personal buddy and Thunder Media pickup run legend, Joel Lorenzi, when I said that Caruso looked like a 14th century monk tonight, said he looks like an effing samurai.
Oh, I like that.
I thought Dub kind of did with his outfit. That's the one I saw. It kind of gave me
Oh,
some
see, I didn't see the outfit. I just saw Caruso's outfit because Caruso came out with the
sitting
outfit.
on the bench. Yeah.
I like that.
So,
That's good. But to that point about interactions, you also had a nice little interaction at MSG with none other than Sam Presti, right?
oh yeah, it's crazy. Sam Presti was hanging out in the concourse,
Just vibing.
just right outside the hot dog stand
What?
at halftime at MSG.
Was he
on a
getting
Friday
cream
night,
cheese?
Where I did not think there was cream cheese in the chat from George.
Oh, that's too bad.
Cream cheese in the MSG from Sam. But so many people walked by that guy and nobody like stopped. And I was just like,
This
wow,
is my
like,
shot. This is my chance.
Yeah.
This
So
is,
how did it happen?
The
Did you just
average
walk
New
up?
Yorker had no idea that was Sam Presti.
Yep. The best GM in all of sports.
Jacob
So
walked
I
up and
went
said,
up and said what's up to him.
That's awesome.
So
He said, "Oh, you're the uncontested guy.
get out of here. No, he was really nice. We chatted for just a few minutes. So it was really cool.
That's awesome.
That's
Super
good
cool.
stuff.
So
Love it.
yep. All right. Well, I'll let you guys finish potting, but I just wanted to poke my head in real quick. So
Love it. Boots on the ground, the uncontested.
That's right.
You can only get that content here.
I think you can get that content literally everywhere that covers the Thunder, but and we're probably the worst at it. So
Stop it.
Hey,
You're welcome.
ever since Chet's dad told me in person the hip was, and I quote, good. Chet's looked better and better.
That's right.
No more
Yep.
crutch.
Official reports.
Inside info right here on the uncontested.
All right, dude. Thanks for popping on. Good to see you.
See you
Talk
guys.
to you soon.
See ya.
That's awesome. Really good
That was
insight.
awesome.
I'm glad Jacob gets to do that. He's with his parents, and so that's a really fun, a lot of fun memories there. And I'm excited to see his experience when he goes and sees the Sixers game. But
Justin
Justin,
gets in a fist fight in Philly.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I said. Yeah, those Sixers fans are aggressive. Got to be careful. You mentioned Shai. Let's just go ahead and get into some individual performances tonight.
Yes.
If I can find my stats here. Here we go. Slowly, surely, it's loading. Got it. Shai had 27 points, did not quite get his 30. During the third quarter, he was like very obviously hunting that 30-point game, which I loved.
Yeah.
He always says the right things. He's
Scoring
the
title
epitome of Thunder
Shai.
player. Yeah, right. And that's the other thing. He now leads league. And prior to tonight's game, I haven't looked at
I was going to say, does he still?
I
That
don't
was
know
my
how
question.
Giannis did tonight, but he officially surpassed Giannis with the most points per game on 100 more points total, which is pretty
Yep,
crazy.
that
Tonight,
is.
Shai had 27, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. He had 2 steals, 0 blocks, which is kind of crazy. We kind of accustomed to Shai getting 1 or 2 blocks per game. But like you said, Justin, only 5 of 17 from the floor,
Yep.
1 of 4 from 3, and 16 of 17 from the free throw line. But just kind of some crazy I mean, again, it wasn't the best Shai game. We didn't need it against the Wizards. And like I said, you could just tell these guys almost going through the motions a bit. They knew they were the better team. They knew they could rely on their identity of getting stops and deflections and beat this team without exerting too much effort, I think, which is kind of impressive in its own right. But Shai scored his 10,000th career point tonight.
That's noteworthy.
The 16th fastest player to reach 10,000 points in NBA history, which is kind of amazing when you think about Shai. We've talked about him in the past being a player from the time he got traded here, his first couple of seasons in OKC, just a player who gradually improves each season. And then we've seen him take the superstar leap over the past 2 or 3 seasons now. But for him to do that and just kind of, it's so different than the LeBrons or the Wembanyamas, who are coming into the league. And I just find it incredibly impressive.
Yep. I totally agree. It's an important tier. It's an important milestone. I think it shows, like you said, how far Shai has come. He's also, I don't have the exact number, but he's got to be getting close to 10,000 with the Thunder, which I think puts him in a club with Westbrook and Kevin Durant only. So I think that, obviously I think he has earned a place in that same conversation with those two in terms of their Thunder tenure, just based on what he's done. But to cross that milestone from a points perspective, super awesome for Shai. He also was one jinxed free throw away from another record. What was it? 51 free throws in a row that
Thanks,
Shai had.
Michael Gage.
He goes 16 of 17 tonight. I think I saw someone say he hasn't missed a free throw in the entire month of January until Michael Cage brought it up on the broadcast, and then he missed his last one. 52 is the Thunder record set by Kevin Durant for most consecutive free throws. So close.
Shai had 50. He was 51 of 51 from the free throw line. Like you said, the second most consecutive free throws in Thunder history behind KD.
That's nuts.
And it was pretty funny. That whole interaction with Michael Cage. He started to bring it up after Shai got his 50th. And he said, no, we're going to save it. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to do it here. I'm not going to jinx it. And then he kind of made another comment once Shai got to the free throw line there to get his 51st. Drills the first, then misses the second. And he falls one short of the Thunder record. But one thing that I do find really impressive about that is Shai is getting to the line more. And obviously the foul merchant narrative that's out there with NBA fandom on Twitter, we know that's not true, but it does feel like at the turn of the new year, Shai's getting to the line more. And obviously he's been incredibly efficient. He's doing it at all 3 levels right now. Tonight, not so much. Against the Cavs, not so much this week, but he's playing at an MVP level.
Well, it feels like the Thunder as a whole, the last few games, and this is a gut feeling, I don't have stats in front of me, but they're finally starting to get some foul calls. Like, we're not looking at the stat sheet every night and seeing this massive foul disparity. And I feel like the Cavaliers game was one where they got a lot, but it was still there was a lot of foul calls for sending the Cavs to the line. But tonight, what is it? 35 for the Thunder, 33 for the Wizards. That's a lot of fouls. But
that's a lot of fouls.
That's a lot of free throws.
That's the theme too. Just the way the Thunder play
game needed.
Right.
But if the Thunder as a whole are actually getting more of a whistle, obviously that's going to raise Shai's boat too, because he was already kind of getting the line more than the rest of the guys. So 16 of 17, you're not going to see that every night from Shai. I'd be shocked. But it's a skill. Like, as much as NBA Twitter wants to dog on it, I only have a problem with it if you're overly exaggerating content to the point, or contact, to the point where no one's touching you and your head's flying back like a rock'em sock'em robot and you just are baiting a whistle. That's different than using moves to draw contact and get your defender in a bad position to take advantage of. It's different. And now that's not to say Shai never exaggerates contact. He absolutely does. Everyone in the NBA does. But I think there is a difference to that than what you see from when James Harden was going to the line every 4.5 seconds. Some of the things he was doing to get to the free throw line were just unbelievably shameless.
Luka, the crime.
We haven't quite seen that from Shai yet.
Yeah, exactly. He remains very poised throughout it, all of it. And now he's getting the respect from the refs to be able to get those kind of calls. Even if there is one or two, like you said, that maybe opposing fan bases are going to complain about.
Sure.
But Shai's had
fan bases will complain about anything.
Yeah, 100, especially when you're at the top. It's kind of nice. I kind of like being the hated now.
Yeah. Target on the back. Speaking of targets, Isaiah Joe, little off target tonight.
Yeah.
After the Knicks game.
I made the joke in the Discord, Justin, that, it took Isaiah Joe, 2 or 3 months to charge up until he got to his explosion of a game against the Knicks. Now it's going to take another couple months before he can get back there and we have another game.
I sure hope not.
Right?
1 of 6 from behind the arc tonight for Isaiah Joe. Apparently he liked Capital One Arena as much as Jacob did. The shot was not falling tonight for Joe.
It wasn't. And honestly, it didn't really need to be.
Nope.
The thing I continue to like a lot, and I talked about this on my post game after the Knicks game, but his ability to move without the ball, to cut and recognize when defenses are adjusting to him hitting that 3-point shot, cutting to the basket, backdoor cuts, and guys like iHeart and J Will, who we'll get into from tonight, making some incredible reads. That's what makes Isaiah Joe really dangerous. And so, again, are we going to see him go whatever it was, 8 of 11 from 3, more consistently? No. But instead of the 1 of 6 games like tonight that we've kind of become accustomed to over the past couple of months, maybe it's more like 3 of 6, 3 or 4 of 7. And that's a huge boost to this team, especially when other guys like Aaron Wiggins and others are stepping up. But you're right. It definitely was a cool down game for Isaiah Joe. A lot of different players. Yeah, Wiggins had an incredible game.
Like you just mentioned, great game for Wiggins tonight. I think he's been a little up and down. He obviously had the big one against the Knicks in Oklahoma City, but awesome to see Wiggins step up. Probably the most impressive player for the Thunder tonight.
I think so too. Do you want to go ahead and pull it up, Justin?
I was prompting it.
Too. I love it. Go ahead and pull it up.
Yeah, let's do it. This is the official designation. Aaron Wiggins, King of the Prairie tonight. 23 points, 7 of 11 from the floor, 2 of 4 from behind the arc, 7 of 8 from the free throw line, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block, a plus 27 in 30 minutes. That'll do, Pig.
23 points is a season high for Wiggins, not a career high. But again, that's pretty incredible when you put into perspective some of the games and performances he's had over the past 2 weeks, especially that Knicks game where he went crazy. He was just consistent all the way throughout the majority of the game. And one interesting thing, a lot of this is due to the Thunder not having a lot of extra bodies like the Carusos and the Chets to put into the lineup right now. But Wiggins was one of the few players that Mark kept in through the majority of the game. Again,
30 minutes is huge.
30. Shai didn't touch the floor again in the fourth quarter, dubbed in it. And he let Wiggins play it. I think that was really good. It gave him a little more of an opportunity to play with some of these other guys, initiate some offense. What we're seeing from Wiggins is just really impressive. So much more confidence. And yes, there's still some possessions on the defensive side of the ball where maybe he's getting blown by and not like the best defender on this team, but I think he's held up really well in his minutes, especially with some of the starters and second unit players this past week. And it's really promising seeing guys like Aaron Wiggins and Isaiah Joe performing better on both ends of the floor here when the Thunder have gone on this run. I mean, they're a huge reason for that, and they're kind of leading the bench.
Yep, I totally agree. And I think we've talked about it before. What this bench unit needs is it doesn't necessarily have to be the same guy every night that's going off, right? Like this isn't a traditional 6-man situation where there's one guy coming off the bench that is going to go off. But I think these last 2 games are a perfect example of you just need it to be somebody. And I think that's where the depth advantage comes in. And while Mark Daigneault can get criticism for playing so many guys so often, going so deep, this is the advantage of it. I think you get Isaiah Joe going nuclear in MSG. You get Aaron Wiggins going off tonight against the Sixers. Hopefully it's somebody else filling that role. No, against the Sixers. Yeah, in the next game. Hopefully it's somebody else in that role. And you're tapping into the depth of availability that you have on the bench to where, it's not like Jamal Crawford coming off the bench and just going microwave every night. It can be different guys. I think that the key is that it has to be somebody. And I think that can be the challenge at times is if nobody steps up, then that's a tough look because you don't have that one dependable piece. And I don't know that the Thunder do have that right now, but they have enough guys that can give you good minutes that I think you've got somebody off the bench that can go off for you every night. And I think that's part of the challenge with the AJ news.
Right.
Is he was kind of becoming one of those guys, right? He was one of those guys that could go off on any given night for this team, which is pretty wild for a rookie.
I was going to bring that up as well, and that's something I alluded to on Friday's post game that we talk a little more in detail about. I think this is a good time on our group podcast. But no, AJ obviously sparked a lot of conversation because AJ feels like so many of these players fit into the scheme that Mark likes to run, the identity of this team so well, but they're all similar. They bring different strengths and weaknesses to the team. Don't get me wrong, but they're similar archetypes, similar role players, right? AJ Mitchell fit a very specific niche for this Thunder team, being that second, that main creator in that second unit alongside J-Dub. And you don't really have that with Caruso and AJ both out. And so there was all the talk about, did the Thunder need to go and make a trade and try and find one of those main creators or facilitators or scorers? And I think what we've seen from these two guys like Aaron Wiggins and Kenrich Williams and even Jay Will stepping up, it's like you can compensate for that in other ways. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing from these bench players.
Yep. I totally agree.
So Justin, I know we've gone a little long here on a absolute beatdown of the Wizards, but there are like two more players specifically I really want to talk about. Obviously, iHeart did his thing with 10 and 12. You had Jay Will, who I thought had a really good first half and kind of fit it was interesting. Valanciunas checked in, and instead of matching that with Hartenstein, Mark actually subbed out Hartenstein for Jay Will. I thought he did a really good job there. Jay Will deserves a lot of credit, 9 points, 9 rebounds. But two players specifically that I think there's some trends that we should talk about, even outside of this game. The first one being Cason Wallace, 14 points, 5 assists, 6 of 7 from the floor, 2 of 3 from 3, which is huge, and did his thing per usual, 2 steals. Justin, that's now 24 games this season with 2+ steals for Cason, and he's shooting over 50% from 3 in January. We've been talking about what happens when Cason finds that shot, when Isaiah Joe, when Wiggins gets out of his slump. We're starting to see it, and Cason's another one of those players.
Only 12 days in, but this is it, right? This is the ceiling that we were hoping to see. If this continues, that's huge for this Thunder team. I think he's absolutely kind of solidified himself in that starting spot, has earned every minute that he gets there, and has been making the most of it. He's just nails on the defensive end, and if you can pair that with a real tangible shooting threat that other teams have to game plan for, that changes a lot of dynamics for this team. And like you said, he's been doing that for the first, 2.5 weeks of January. We've gotten to see that in action. And then this team benefits from it massively.
100%. And his point of attack defense is just incredible. So when he's hitting those shots offensively, moving off ball, we saw some floaters there in the Knicks game, getting to the rim and finishing is just the icing on top of the cake, right? To use an analogy there. And Mark had a quote post game talking about Cason getting his chest on defenders without fouling, and does so, and is able to just strip a ball away from a defender every single game, and just how hard that is. And for a second-year player to be doing that, thought it was pretty cool.
To do that without fouling, right? It's very impressive. Especially
his
instincts.
Size.
Yep.
100%. I love him in the starting unit. But there's another player, Justin, and look, I mean, I maybe am the biggest Jalen Williams J-Dub fan on this podcast. I am on record saying that when the Thunder win a championship, although it's looking maybe a little sooner than I anticipated, that J-Dub may just be the 1A, 1B to Shai's 1A, 1B. Like he's going to be up there as the best player for the Thunder. That's how they will win the championship, even above Chet. But he's been struggling offensively, and he brings this isn't just to kind of downplay what Dub's done. His impact on the floor, especially defensively, through the entirety of the season is just absolutely unreal. He deserves to be an all-star without a doubt. There's a lot of quotes post-game about that as well from him and Shai. But tonight he had, 17 points, 6 rebounds, but only 4 of 13 shooting, 1 of 4 from the floor, or 1 of 4 from 3. One thing that I liked is he is getting to the free throw line a little more. Tonight against the Wizards, 8 of 8. But even against the Knicks, past couple of games, we've seen him get to the free throw line a little bit more. But the reason I bring this up, I want to give a shout out to Connor B in our Discord. He mentioned Dub's poor shooting over the past 10 games. So I went ahead and pulled it up. He's shooting 20.5% from 3 on 4.4 attempts per game. And he's shooting about 44% from the floor, which isn't incredible for him. I mean, obviously he's making up for it with some of his floaters and driving to the rim now. But Justin, he has not been shooting nearly as well as he was to start the season. And so my question for you, are we concerned about Dub scoring right now, especially as we begin to near the halfway point of the NBA season?
Connor B, and the B is for Balrog. It's not hard to be concerned about it, right? Like there's plenty of that narrative on the internet right now. Nick and I touched on this a little bit on last Sunday's show too. You look at the defensive assignments that he's drawn recently. And no wonder, right? Like he's guarding Cat and guys like that just normally players like J-Dub are not guarding. The toll that takes on your system, it's no wonder that you wouldn't be able to come down and score on the other end. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that, because I think that's absolutely a factor. How much of a factor? I don't know, but that's absolutely a factor in his scoring outputs, because he's expending so much energy on the defensive end to make up for not having Chet Holmgren and playing in some of those mismatch assignments that it's extremely impressive. I'm glad you mentioned it, of like his impact on the floor is not defined by what happens on the offensive end.
And arguably it's better than ever at this point of his career.
Yeah, that's a great point too. But
we know he's capable of more offensively, and that's what it comes to.
I think you want to see it, right? Like, I think it's not a concern, if I can use that to answer your question. Like, you want to see J-Dub turn that corner and be more efficient with his offense. Long season, right? We're January 12th right now. There's a long ways to go. There is plenty of time that come playoff time, we may be looking back at this stretch and it be absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things. Thunder 32-6. He's not hurting the team with his offensive output. But when it comes playoff time, you want to be able to rely on Dub. And I think that's where, if you have to point to a weakness, which again, they're 32-6. But if you want to find a weakness on this team, it's having a little bit more shot creation when it's not Shai. Having somebody who can go get buckets when it's not Shai. And I think there's a lot of reason to think that person can be and should be and will be Jalen Williams. It's just not right now. And I think, again, you can obviously weary that storm, because the Thunder have done so for this stretch. They're not losing games because of it. But it's something that I would expect to turn around, especially once Chet comes back. I think that helps offset the load, not only on defense, but also on offense. That should 100%. Open some things up for J-Dub as well. So I think you can't be too down on it. Like, we're not trying to doom and gloom about it, but it is disappointing and something you hope to see turn around.
And it's worth mentioning on the podcast, right?
It is.
And so I think you bring up a great point with Chet. We see Dub and Shai being staggered and still obviously playing a lot of time together. But I think we're going to see Hart and Chet, yes, both play together, but also them staggered as well in lineups. And that's going to help J-Dubs, like you said, his offensive input for all the reasons you mentioned.
Yep.
So, Justin, we're already kind of getting into some big picture themes, but, we've had a lot of stuff going on here at the Uncontested, all of us personally, and the holidays, things of that nature. It's been a while since we all been on a podcast together. So since we have been doing some more solo pods and stuff, I mean, this was a huge week of Thunder basketball.
Huge.
And we already have alluded to it. Obviously, we had the huge matchup against the Cavs that was hyped up, lived up to expectations, but the Thunder didn't pull it off. And then we had the Knicks game, just the absolute beatdown on NBA TV. That was incredibly impressive. So I talked about the Knicks game on my post game. I'm just kind of curious your thoughts from the Knicks game, from this week as a whole, how they were able to bounce back and respond from that Cavs game. Just some big takeaways that we've learned from this team over the past week to two that really kind of give you more optimism heading into this latter half of the season.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a week ago, Nick and I were discussing, looking at those upcoming 3 games. If you go 1-2, you could realistically feel all right about it, right? Like, that's a crazy thing to say for this team. But if you picture a week where you had Boston, Cleveland, New York, Washington, and 2-2 is an okay result from that stretch. But they didn't. They go 3-1, as this team has done all season. They've over-indexed. They have exceeded expectations, and that's what they've done again, right? The Cleveland loss was a bummer because it felt like the Cleveland got the better of that matchup. There were some things schematically that they were taking advantage of that you hadn't seen a team take advantage of against the Thunder. Cleveland's offense is awesome. That's why they're the best offense in the NBA. And they did their job against Oklahoma City. They took advantage of mismatches. They took advantage of no Chet Holmgren, and they made the Thunder pay. And that's what great teams do. You can live with it because, again, the Thunder are 32-6, and they kept it competitive, right? This wasn't an NBA Cup redo where they got the breaks beat off of them, right? Like, it was a highly anticipated, highly viewed matchup that everybody walked out of saying, like, yeah, that was awesome. And that is the exact outcome you want for the Thunder. Obviously, you want to win, but everybody looked at that and said, like, these two teams are awesome. I hope to see them in the finals. That's a great outcome. And now you have the NBA turning around and trying to hype up the rematch on Thursday in Oklahoma City, which is super cool as well. Then you go on the road to New York, a game that felt like a potential trap, right? Like you're let down after the Cleveland loss. You just had a dramatic win over New York. You saw Knicks players alluding to how they really needed to get that one when they came back to New York. You saw Knicks fans and podcasters saying the same thing of like, this is going to be different when they come to New York. And guess what? It was different, but not for the reason you thought. Thunder go and win by 25 and just absolutely demolish the Knicks. I love that Cat was back because that easily could have been a handicap excuse. If Cat was hurt and didn't play, then like, you hang your hat on that, but no, that was the Knicks. That was them. And the Thunder went into their house and absolutely dominated them. You got to love the resiliency.
And then you're riding off like the super high of obviously the past 2 weeks, what you're able to accomplish at Paycom to end it last year and head into the new year. Then you have that huge marquee matchup against the Cavs that you lose. You respond great against the Knicks. And then you come out tonight against a team that like, you could just sleepwalk and maybe they catch you on
playing in
a
library.
They beat you. They still end up beating the Wizards by 40 points.
Yeah.
And I think, that you alluded to this as well. The different ways that the Thunder can beat you. Some nights it's Isaiah Joe, like it was in the Garden.
Yep.
Other nights it's guys like Aaron Wiggins stepping up tonight. Every night it's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander playing at a MVP level, both offensively and defensively. And J-Dub and his versatility. Cason Wallace, Lou Dort hitting his threes. But ultimately, instead of like, when they're down, like they were here a couple of weeks ago, if you want to include the previous week of Thunder basketball, it's not like they all of a sudden just start trying to fire up 3-point shots and they start making their 3-point shots. That's why they're getting back into games. Yep. They're sticking to their identity, their style of play. They lock back in defensively. They get those steals and deflections. They get out in transition. They run their sets in the half-court offense, and they stick to what they do best. And that's why this team is so dangerous. And that's kind of my biggest takeaway, I think, from this previous week, what we've seen as well as the week before.
This stretch, right? Like if you expand it back even further, the stretch that started really with that Memphis game on December 29th, probably the toughest stretch of the season, and Oklahoma City loses one game.
That's crazy.
They go 7-1 in probably the toughest 8-game, or let's say 6-1 in the toughest. I'm not going to include Washington in that stretch. In probably the toughest 7-game stretch of the season. It's awesome. That's why they're on pace to win 70 games right now, which is wild. Bonkers.
And Justin, I think it was somebody in our Discord, I can't remember who at this point, so apologies, but said that from this point forward, the Thunder now have like the 5th or 6th easiest schedule throughout the remaining.
That's crazy too.
Remainder of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also saw another stat. I saw it tonight. I saved it. I'm pulling a Taylor. I got notes on my phone.
Yeah.
The discussion about like the best net rating in NBA history, right? We are 38 games into the season. Oklahoma City has the second best net rating in NBA history, nestled behind the 95-96 Bulls and ahead of the 96-97 Bulls.
I think those are pretty good teams. I was pretty young back then, Justin, but I think they were pretty good.
Decent. You're also ahead of other notable teams like the 2016-17 Warriors, the 23-24 Spurs, the 23-24 Celtics, and the 2015-16 Spurs. Insane company. And like we're at the point in the season, 38 games is not an anomaly. Now, I'm not going to say the Thunder are going to finish there because there's still a long way to go, but it's to the point now where it's definitely not a fluke. And that I think has been most impressive this season. Again, saying the cliche, as we look forward to having like a fully healthy roster, there's a very good chance that the numbers only solidify.
And that's the biggest thing too. It's like we're still talking about things like J-Dub not being nearly as efficient as we become.
There's still room to improve.
Cason Wallace's 3-point shooting now finally getting back to the mean here over the past game. Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins going through his slump, and then the big elephant in the room. There's no check Caruso yet. Speaking of which, Caruso looks pretty good. Going through shoot around, travel with the team. I would not be surprised. Maybe not the Sixers game on Tuesday, Justin, but I'm really hoping they're targeting that return back
Cleveland at home
Cleveland on Thursday.
I am too. That'd be a great one.
So that will be exciting and a huge spark to this bench, not even just offensively, but just everything he brings to the floor.
Yep.
One more thing before we move on, Justin. We're getting a lot of comments in the chat. Everybody wants us to talk about dump truck Duke.
Dude, we have created a monster.
We have created a monster. And hey, all I'm going to say is my guy was 100% from the floor, 100% from three tonight.
That's right.
Only had 3 points, but that's irrelevant.
May have gotten Shai a technical, waving his towel on the bench, but worth it.
Worth it.
Worth it for dump truck Dukas.
Shout out Dukas.
Unbelievable.
I think that's all I got in terms of Thunder basketball. Justin, do we want to transition into
Should we do some trivia?
Yeah, it's my favorite.
Yeah.
Guess who still doesn't have his whiteboard?
Dude, unbelievable. Well, it's just you tonight, so I guess that's okay. We're going to play a little Prairie Trivia, brought to you by our friends at Prairie Artisan Ales, like this lovely Blue Buns treat that I'm drinking right now. Also, if you like Prairie Trivia and you want to play it for real life, every Sunday at 4:30, Prairie does trivia. It's a blast. We got to play it a little bit a couple weeks ago before we went to the Thunder Grizzlies game. It's a great time, hang out, drink some beers, watch some sports on TV, and play some trivia. Tonight, once again, our guy Rob in the Patreon Discord coming through, submitting some really fun trivia questions, thematically appropriate. So, Taylor, I got 3 questions for you and only you tonight.
Let's go. It's my chance to get back on top. Shout out.
Yes. Yes. You ready?
Probably going to get them all wrong, but I'm ready.
Okay. Question number 1. Is the 3-point percentage for OKC lower or higher in their last 15 games compared to their first 15 games this year?
Ooh.
And what do you think the difference is?
Okay, so first 15 games.
First 15 games of the season compared to the last 15 games right now.
I got it.
All right, what you got?
So I am going with lower.
Okay.
Because the first 15 games, I think about J-Dub being incredibly efficient. I know Isaiah Joe never really got it going early in the season. I know Shai was struggling with his 3 early in the season, but it felt like they were hitting it at hitting 3-point shots at a high clip to start the year. So I'm going lower. I'm going to say it's like 8% lower.
8%. That's a big number.
Yeah. That is funny.
Too late. You locked it in.
Yep, I locked it in.
The answer is higher.
Oh.
In the
that
first
felt too easy.
In the first 15 games, the Thunder shot 34.7% from behind the arc. In the last 15 games, now that you know the context, do you want what do you think they're shooting in the last 15 games?
38%.
35.4.
Oh.
0.7%.
So low.
The point is
crazy.
Almost exactly the same. And I think that's what's interesting about that is, right? Like we remember the beginning of the season, it felt like they were clanging. Last 15 games where they're winning so many games and destroying teams, almost the same.
That's
kind of crazy.
Very interesting. Thunder aren't an elite 3-point shooting team by any means.
No, not by any means, right? Yes. All right. So to second question, seeing as we play the Wizards tonight, do you know who has the single game record for points as a Wizards player?
Ooh.
I'll give you a hint. There are 2 correct answers. They are tied.
Okay.
See if you can get both of them.
Okay. I think I have one. The second one I'm struggling with, but there was a certain player, former Wizard player in attendance tonight for this game.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to go with him.
Okay.
For my second answer. I think the first one's easy. I hope I get this.
All right, let's see what you got. We got Gilbert Arenas and John Wall.
John Wall was in attendance tonight. Everybody do the John Wall. You remember that song?
Yes, I do. Thanks for bringing that back. Gilbert Arenas is correct. Do you know how many points, what the record is?
Wasn't it like 60? 61?
It was 60. Oh. Way to go. It was 60. Gilbert Arenas is one. Nope. Yeah, we do have someone in the chat that got it correct. The other answer is Bradley Beal.
Bradley Beal. Okay,
Bradley Beal, John Wall, kind of like in the same.
Recent.
Yep, same era.
Fairly recent. Huh.
Yeah, 60 points.
All right, I got a point. Let's go.
Let's go. All right, question number 3. Third and final question. OKC has played 25 opponents this year, some multiple times. How many of those opponents have their season high in total turnovers versus OKC?
Ooh.
This is a really fun question. So of the 25 teams Oklahoma City has played, how many have their season high in total turnovers against the Thunder?
Eesh. This is one I would love to give you a number, or you give me a number and I say higher or lower. But that's cheating.
Let's see what you come up with first.
So I'm going with the lucky number 13.
Oh, 13. Okay. Let's go lower.
Okay.
Would you like to guess again?
10.
10. Closer. Still lower.
8.
6. The answer is 6.
That's not nearly as much as I would have thought.
We got 1 7 in the chat and a couple 20s and a 13.
Shout out Trav. We're on the same wave there.
The answer is 6. The teams are Chicago, San Antonio, LA Clippers, New Orleans, Utah, and Minnesota.
That's a fun one.
It is fun.
I
would
have said more just because the Thunder turned teams over.
My gut would have said more, but I feel like
turnovers.
It's one where my head immediately goes to like, okay, so what about everybody else? Like 6 is probably still high, right? I would imagine 6 is probably still like a really big number if you were to go pull the same data on the rest of the league, right? Like the Thunder played 25 teams, but there's only 30 teams in the league. And 6 of them, so a fifth of the league, have their most turnovers against Oklahoma City. That feels like that could be high, right?
Yep.
I think that's still very much a testament to this Thunder defense.
That's a fun one. Well done. Well done, Rob. You're the man.
Shout out Rob, killing it on the trivia questions.
Well, Justin, we are about to get out of here. Unfortunately, you've had to run trivia the past 2 weeks, so we'll get you back on getting to guess some trivia questions next week.
I would probably get them wrong anyway, so...
And you came up with some of your own last week, too.
I did. And made everybody mad.
You did have some people a little angry. That's okay.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and take our break for the night, and then we will get out here looking ahead at the upcoming schedule for the Thunder next week and making our predictions. Be right back. Okay, Justin. I know,
this is what happens without Jacob. We take our only actual announced break 57 minutes into the podcast.
I'm just like, what do I do here?
Silva will put some breaks in there somewhere.
Yeah, it'll sound better.
Yeah.
Silva makes us sound better. You make us look better. So looking ahead at the week, like we mentioned, Jacob will be in attendance for the 76ers game on Tuesday. We have the Cleveland Cavaliers, the big rematch back at Paycom Thursday night. And then we have a tough back-to-back. They head to Dallas. Short little 30-minute flight to Dallas to play the Mavericks Friday night, January 17th. And then are we including the Sunday game next Sunday? I think so.
Yep.
Yeah. So then they play the Nets back at home, thankfully. They don't have to go back to the East Coast Sunday. Justin, what do we got for the 76ers game? I'm
taking a win in Philly. And I'm going to moneyball it.
Ooh. Give me a sounder. We don't have sounders we can play tonight.
Oh, yeah. What's my sounder for Philly? What's our most Philly sounder?
That's an easy one.
What?
Cream cheese in the chat.
Oh, yes. Cream cheese in the chat from George.
Philly cheese.
I like it. Philly cheese in the chat.
I like that. And honestly, on paper, at this point, your odds are way better if you just go with wins.
I know that. And this is why I'm in last place in the trivia standings, is because I've tried to be too smart, and it's just easier if you just pick wins.
And Jake has been our optimist this season.
Yes,
picking wins, and he leads. Makes a lot of sense when you look at the record.
I've given up any hope of winning the trivia competition or the prediction.
Just like last year, you struggled.
Just like last. Hey, you know what I did is I came back and won the playoffs predictions.
That's true.
Thank you very much. When it mattered, I show up in the playoffs, Taylor.
I love it. We'll see if that's the case this year.
Yes.
I'm still going to get cute, though, and take the loss against the 76ers.
Oh, okay.
And the reason is, it's kind of something we alluded to earlier, is that I kind of thought maybe the Knicks would be a loss if the Thunder beat the Cavs. They won those, or they had those 2 big games the big week, the week before. It's okay, maybe the Wizards catch us sleeping. I think they're due for a loss again. And I think they're going to be looking ahead to that game, that rematch Thursday back at Paycom against the Cavs. So that's why I'm going with loss.
Wow. How dare you?
I know. The pessimist of the podcast, what they call me.
That's your brand. Yep.
Like I mentioned, next up, we have the big rematch against the Cleveland Cavaliers in Paycom this time on Thursday night. Justin, what are we going with?
Thunder get revenge in the rematch on TNT at Paycom. This team does a really great job with adjustments. And I think we've said that many times this season. You see it often play out in games where they come out in the second half with adjustments to win the game. We saw all those double-digit comebacks a week ago. I think Mark Daigneault, that's where he earns his stripes. I think Oklahoma City comes in with some adjustments. Can you expect Donovan Mitchell to play as poorly as he did 2 games in a row against the Thunder? Probably not. But I think the Thunder will be ready. They'll have some adjustments ready, and Oklahoma City gets a win in the rematch.
Love the point you brought up about the adjustments from Daigneault, because I think we see some changes there. For example, we didn't see a whole lot. They kind of stuck to the game plan against Cleveland this past week when it came to switching and their defensive scheme specifically. So I am curious to see the adjustments that they make heading into next week. I'm also going with the W here, which is why I went ahead and took the L against the 76ers. Made me feel better about the W bounce back game against the Cavs, but I'm not yet locking it in with a money ball. Like I mentioned,
that would be foolish to do so.
Yeah, but it could be a good opportunity though
Good.
to catch you guys sleeping a little bit. The Thunder have a back-to-back. Like I said, they head a little south down into your and Nick's neck of the woods.
Yep.
Dallas, Texas, against the Mavericks, who are shorthanded, obviously. Luka's still out. Trying to think who else. They had somebody else who just like recently came back. But they've been playing pretty
Kyrie is
well.
out too.
Oh, Kyrie's out. Yeah, Duh, that's the big one.
No Luka, no Kyrie.
They got another win tonight. You know, they're hanging in there, which is impressive. And on the second night of a back-to-back, it's a little worrisome. What do you have, Justin, for the Mavericks game?
The Thunder get a win in Dallas, and assuming Kyrie is still out, which I think he's supposed to be, anything less would be a massive disappointment.
I agree. And I am a little concerned because, like I said, I mean, those are some big games. 76ers, the Cavs. If you get 2 straight wins and then you have the Sega Baba the next night, you're having to travel. Worries me a little bit. But like we've seen with this team, they always seem to defy the odds. And
that big 45-minute flight is sure to do havoc on them.
But hey, I mean, you got to do all the post-game availability, all that stuff.
This
like
is true.
You're still not getting in until like midnight or 1 a.m. But like you said, without Kyrie, without Luka, I'm taking the win as well.
Yep.
Still not locking it in with the money ball, though, which means I have one more option.
And it's probably the right option, if we're being honest.
I'm playing it safe yet again, just like I took the Wizards money ball last week. But like I said, the Brooklyn Nets game, they play at Paycom, so the Thunder don't have to travel again, which is nice, next Sunday. So we'll have another game to break down. Another early tip, Justin, 6 p.m. Central Time.
6 p.m. Sunday.
Kind of nice.
City nights. Get
City
the black
nights.
uniforms.
Love it. Give me the win in the money ball. I already said it.
Thunder get a win. I am also taking a win. I probably should have taken this as the money ball, but yeah, it feels, again, anything less than a win against the Nets would be a massive disappointment.
100%.
Also, shout out Smoot in the chat pointing out the Thunder are undefeated on Sega Babas this season.
Knock on wood
Taylor.
right now, Smoot.
Yeah, you're going to Michael Cage this
Yeah,
team.
don't Michael Cage this. Well, Justin, that was a fun podcast.
It was fun.
We covered a lot of ground.
We did.
A lot of ground, and I think it was we were overdue to do so. Super fun couple of weeks of Thunder basketball. Shout out our guy Jacob joining us in his hotel room on the East Coast. Be sure to stay tuned because he'll have some content for us sharing with you all as he travels to Philadelphia to watch his last stretch of the away stretch. The last game of the away stretch. There we go. Thank you all for joining us. The chat was popping per usual. We had a ton of live viewers. Shout out to everybody in the Patreon. Like I said, we've been having a blast in the Discord, and Friday night watching that game live with everybody for the Knicks game was a ton of fun. So be sure to join if you have not already. Be sure to stay tuned. We'll have our next group podcast on Wednesday, and then the big game Thursday. Oh, we'll recap the Sixers game, I guess. We won't have a post game Tuesday. And then we'll have a big one Thursday night against the Cavs. A lot of basketball coming up this next week as well. A lot of games. So be sure to stay tuned at the Uncontested. We'll have you covered for all of it And until next time, and as always, Thunder up.